the best of the week on Relevant Radio.
Welcome to Marriage Unhindered. I'm your host, Doug Hinderer, licensed marriage and family therapist. And the whole show is designed to help you live married life as God intended it and, sanctify your life through your marriage. Now, your spouse will always be a mystery, but that's a good thing. I mean, how boring would it be if you knew everything there was to know about your spouse? It's a much better idea to get excited about the journey of discovery that your marriage can be through 40 or 50 or 60 years. So we're going to talk about how to evaluate the person you're dating. So what should you be looking for? Number one is a person who knows how to love. And I know you're sitting there saying, well, Doug, that seems kind of stupid. Of course, I need to marry someone who knows how to love. But do you know what love actually is? Do we really know what love is? Can you define love? I mean, I love pizza. I love the Chicago Cubs. I love my wife. But it ain't the same, not the same at all. I suffer a whole lot more for my love of the Cubs than I do for my love of the wife. But that's a whole different story. All right, so here's the deal. I mean, C.S. Lewis wrote a book called The Four Loves, and he based it on what Aristotle wrote about some 2,500 years ago, and basically decided that there's four different kinds of love. And when I'm working with couples thinking about getting married, what I tell them is you've got to score out at least an 80 percentile or higher on all four of these. And if any one of these is not too present, is only present at a low level, this marriage is not going to work out. You're going to be pretty unhappy, and you should make the call sooner rather than later. The first love, or at least first one they talk about, I don't know this in order of importance, because I think all four are pretty doggone important, is Philia, which is the love of friendship. Now, the love we want out of marriage is a love of true friendship. And, we feel ourselves beloved when we know that our friend sees us for who we really are and loves what he or she sees, okay? So you love me for who I am. I don't have to pretend to be something else, right? If I asked you who your best friend was, you'd give me somebody's name, and I'd say, well, how do you know that person's your best friend? And you'd say, well, because I can tell them anything. I have no secrets from my best friend, and I don't. They love me for who I am, and when I'm feeling low, they pick me up, and when I'm feeling high, they share in my joy. True friends are friends because they care about the same thing, and according to Aquinas, that's goodness. They love each other for who they are because they see that thing they care most about, goodness, in each other. So when I look at my wife, I see goodness in her, and that goodness is very attractive, and that makes us good friends because hopefully she sees goodness in me as well. True friends pursue the good together through whatever activities they share, even when, or especially when, the pleasure of it seems to be gone. But we see this good, right? So we go to church together because that brings good to both of us, right? Or we go for walks together, or we hold hands together because there's good in that and pleasure in that as well. As true friends who love each other for their own sake, right? They see in each other a shared conception of the goal of life. So that's a really important thing to talk about for couples who are dating. What's your goal in life? Don't assume you know, right? Because we all have different goals. For some, it's money, power, it's prestige, it's a summer home on a lake, it's a boat, it's a single-digit handicap at the country club. What's your goal in life? And I would suggest that for us, it should be heaven. That's the ultimate goal because we got to leave all the rest of it behind. And today's gospel was about, the guy who found the pearl of great price and sold everything to buy that pearl. Well, that pearl of great price, that pearl is heaven. And we should be willing to sell everything for that goal. And if you've got that goal and I've got that goal, man, that's going to make life pretty exciting because we're going through it looking for the same goal, right? And so for true friends engaging in, the joint activity of running a household, raising children, right? It means more than just securing the basic necessities of life or getting good things for oneself. It means pursuing virtue together, right? Pursue the higher goods. And, in it and through it, shared activities is what marriage is all about, right? So together, we're growing in virtue. Together, we've got this goal of goodness, this goal of being more humble, more kind, more gentle, more sacrificing, more cheerful, right? It means ordering the most basic activities in life to the pursuit of goodness, right? So that's the deal. So friendship is based on common interests. You have to have a lot of things in common that you enjoy doing. Now, not everything. You need to have your own interests and your own likes and dislikes and some of your own activities for sure. If one thing COVID taught us, it taught us a lot, I think, but one thing is that even the best marriage, if you're together 24/7, that's not a good thing. You need some time to yourself, and it's okay to have some hobbies on yourself. But as a general rule, the more you have in common, the better that is. You both like bike riding, you both like playing card games, or watching the same kind of movies, same kind of meals. You both like just watching the sunset. The more in common, the better. I've worked with some couples, and I think this is a little bit of a warning, but some couples whose faith is very, very important to them. Daily mass, regular confession, maybe rosaries together. They go to adoration together in the evenings. And because their faith is so important to them, they've got the other three loves at a high level. But there's great kindness. There's physical attraction between the two of them. They want to bring children into the world. And they're sacrificial in their love. They don't want to put the other one first. So they've got all these great virtues. And they get married, and all of a sudden they find out the friendship is kind of lacking because we don't have much in common. I come home on a Friday night at the end of a really long week, and I say, man, this has been a tough week. We need to go dancing. And then your spouse says, man, I've had a really tough week. I need to curl up and read a good book. No. See, long week, dancing. No, long week, read a book. Oh, wow, what are we going to do? So friendship is a really important part of what married life's all about, right? So there you go. That's first love, first of the four. So how do you score out on friendship and common interests and sharing this common pursuit of goodness? Number two, person who can fight fair. Here's the deal. Conflict is unavoidable. We are flawed human beings. We came into this world flawed. We're victims of original sin. We develop our own attitudes and personalities and temperaments, and those things come into conflict. So here's the deal. The person you marry has defects, and so do you, right? And so those things are going to result in conflict. So you need someone who can handle these things, these conflicts, in a positive way. The idea is about you're never going to eliminate conflict, so you've got to be able to manage it. That's the idea. And the research shows that roughly 70% of all the conflicts that couples have are not solvable. They're just perpetual. You're going to have them the rest of your life, but 30% of the conflicts you can't solve. So, for instance, I'm a morning person and my wife's a night owl. Well, over the years, that's led to some conflicts, and it still does to this day, and we've had to learn how to manage and negotiate and work around these things. And that's just the deal. So it doesn't, there's nothing special about being a morning person or about being a night owl. That's just the way it is, and that results in conflicts. All right, so there are 4 behaviors that result in all the conflict that happens or all the hard feelings that happen in marriage. So you want to avoid these things. Now, everybody, we all do these things, but you just want somebody who doesn't do a lot of them, all right? And the first one is criticism. Number 2 is contempt. Think of contempt as mean-spirited. This comes from a deal where, I'm hurt now and I'm going to hurt you back. I'm going to say some things that are going to really cut deep. Number 3 is stonewalling. Think of that as just shutting down, just stopping and walking away. You can't solve the problem if you just walk away. But sometimes we get so overwhelmed, we get so hurt that we don't know what to do. And so we just shut down. And then the last behavior that causes all the trouble in marriage is defensiveness, right? I blame you for all the problems in this marriage, and I'm not owning any of it. So here's the deal, right? Criticism, contempt, stonewalling, defensiveness. Now John Gottman called them the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, because when they show up, boy, they bring a lot of death and destruction with them. So we've got a favorite one, and so figure out what your favorite one is and work hard to counter that. You need someone who's not overboard on any one of those 4, because that's a recipe for some real problems, right? So, the bottom line is, can this person you're dating argue in a way that still conveys love and respect? Okay? Can they have a difference of opinion, but through the conversation, still show kindness to you, still show love even though I've been hurt or I'm upset? Can they still treat you with kindness? All right. Can they disagree and not be disagreeable? Right? There's polite ways to disagree, and then there's ways to become pretty disagreeable. So, another way to look at it is, in conflicts, does this person you're dating, do they always have to win and you always have to lose? Do they always have to come out on top? Or can they say, you know what, I think you're right. I see it your way now. I understand how you could see it that way. So there you have it. You want to stay away from someone who does too much in terms of criticism, contempt, stonewalling, defensiveness, someone who can disagree with you in ways that are not disagreeable, and who does not always have to win. Number 3, a person whose defects I can live with. This could be the single most important thing I'm going to say on this entire topic. As I pointed out already, the person you're going to marry is going to have defects. Every single human being on the planet does, okay? You need to marry someone whose defects you can live with. And because some defects are deal breakers. Someone who is struggling with addictions, alcohol or drugs, man, those could be deal breakers, But someone who's perhaps selfish, or someone who only thinks of themselves, or, someone who doesn't, give you a lot of time or attention, someone who's too committed to their friends or to their job or to their car, right? Or someone who doesn't know how to control their spending. They spend a lot of money, or they have a lot of credit card debt because they don't know the difference between their needs and their wants, and so they just spend money, right? So, and there are other things that you can put up with, like, well, okay, you're a morning person, you get up early, and I like to sleep in, but I can figure that out, or whatever. So, you drive a little bit too fast, and I'd like it if you drove a little slower, but that's not a deal breaker because you can drive slower or whatever. So, but someone whose defects you can live with, because it's the defects that will make you crazy, especially the big ones, but it's also the defects that will make you a saint, because God will use our spouse's defects to kind of, smooth off our rough edges, okay? But you don't want to make the mistake. And I worked with a few couples who have made the mistake of, good girl marries bad guy, thinking that her love will be enough for him to change and turn his life around. I had one of those, didn't work out so well. I also had another one where good boy married bad girl, thinking that he could be her salvation, right? You don't want to take on a project and also call him a husband or a wife. If you want to try to help somebody, great, God bless you, that's a good thing. Don't marry them. Just because you marry them doesn't mean that they're going to change their bad ways. Let's hope they do, but don't take on a project. Don't take on someone whose bad habits are really destructive and difficult and burdensome. Marriage is hard enough without taking on other burdens that are impossible to carry. This entire episode of Marriage Unhindered is on the updated Relevant Radio app. The Relevant Radio app is completely free and updated daily with fresh articles, podcasts, and prayers.